I had never believed in perfect moments. Not the kind people post online, not the dramatic, cinematic kind. But that night, it felt close enough. We were alone. No crowd, no cameras, just us, sitting across from each other, talking about nothing important and everything at the same time. He looked nervous in a way I had never seen before. His hands moved too much. His smile appeared, disappeared, then came back again. Then he reached for my hand. He said my name like it mattered. He told me he had never been so sure about anything in his life, that with me things finally made sense, that all the chaos before had led him to this moment. And then he asked. The ring wasn't extravagant, but it was real, solid, like the promise behind it. I said yes, without hesitation. He laughed, relieved, pulled me close, whispered that this was just the beginning, that we would finally start our life together. Plans spilled out of him, trips, a home, dates we hadn't taken yet, a future that suddenly felt tangible. I believed every word. That night, I fell asleep smiling, my hand resting on my chest, feeling the weight of the ring like proof that something beautiful had finally chosen me. I remember thinking how lucky I was, how calm everything felt, how safe. I had no idea that in less than 24 hours, that same silence would become unbearable. Because sometimes the happiest nights don't end in darkness, they end in disappearance. I woke up smiling. For a few seconds, everything was still perfect. The ring was there, the memory of the night before felt warm, real. I reached for my phone, expecting a message from him. Something simple. A good morning, a heart, a joke. Nothing. I checked the time. Early, but not unusual. I told myself he was probably busy. Maybe work, maybe errands. He had mentioned he needed to take care of a few things. Still, a strange feeling settled in my chest. I sent a message. Good morning. No reply. An hour passed, then another. I tried calling. Straight to voicemail. That's when the silence started to feel loud. I walked around the apartment, replaying the night in my head, his words, his smile, the way he held my hands when he asked me to marry him. Nothing felt forced, nothing felt rushed. So why wasn't he answering? By midday, worry replaced excitement. I checked his social media. No updates, no activity. I called again, and again. Nothing. I told myself not to panic, but panic doesn't ask permission. By the afternoon, the truth was impossible to ignore. The man who had promised me forever the night before had completely vanished. No message, no explanation, no goodbye. And somewhere deep inside, a thought began to form. Quiet, terrifying, undeniable. He didn't disappear by accident, and someone else knew more than they were saying. That night, I barely slept. Every sound made me check my phone. Every vibration that wasn't there felt louder than the last. I kept telling myself there had to be a simple explanation, a dead phone, an emergency, something I didn't know yet. But morning came, and there was still nothing. No missed calls, no messages, no sign that he even remembered the promise he made. I went through our last conversation again, the way he smiled when he slipped the ring onto my finger, the way he said my name, the certainty in his voice. People don't disappear after moments like that. I called his phone again. Voicemail. I contacted his workplace. They hadn't seen him. He hadn't shown up. No call, no warning. That was when fear stopped being abstract. I drove to his apartment, knocked on the door, rang the bell. Nothing. The lights were off, his car was gone. It felt like someone had erased him overnight. I reached out to his friends. Most were confused, some were concerned. A few didn't answer at all. And then there was one response that felt different, short, careful, almost rehearsed. He probably just needs space. Space. After proposing marriage. That's when I realized something was wrong, not just with his disappearance, but with the people around him. Because silence can be empty, or it can be full of things no one wants to say. And I was starting to understand which one this was. By the third day, panic had settled in. Not the loud kind, the quiet one that sits in your chest and doesn't let you breathe properly. I stopped calling him. Not because I didn't want to hear his voice, but because every unanswered call felt like another confirmation that something was being hidden from me. So I started watching the people around him. His sister avoided my messages. His best friend replied hours later, always vague. Everyone said the same thing, using different words. He's overwhelmed. He needs time. He'll reach out when he's ready. But no one sounded surprised. That's what scared me. Then there was her, someone I trusted, someone who had hugged me the night of the proposal, someone who had cried and said how happy she was for us. When I asked if she had heard from him, there was a pause, just long enough. I think you should give him space, she said carefully. The same words, again. I asked if she knew where he was. She hesitated. I don't think it's my place to say. My stomach dropped. Because concern sounds frantic, confusion sounds messy. But this sounded controlled. I hung up and sat there staring at the ring still on my finger, the symbol of a future that had vanished without explanation. That was when it hit me. He didn't disappear alone. Someone knew exactly where he was, and whoever it was choosing to stay silent. That night, I couldn't stay still. The apartment felt suffocating. Every corner reminded me of promises made just days before. The ring on my finger felt heavier than before, not precious, but accusatory. I kept replaying that conversation in my head. I don't think it's my place to say. People say that when they know something dangerous or shameful. I stopped guessing and started acting. I remembered a place he used to talk about but never took me to, somewhere tied to his past, somewhere he always described vaguely as if the details didn't matter. They mattered now. The drive there felt unreal. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. Every red light felt like a warning, every green light like a mistake I couldn't undo. When I arrived, the building was quiet, too quiet. No lights, no movement. I told myself I was wrong, that I was letting fear create stories. But then I saw his car, parked around the corner, hidden but not enough. My heart dropped into my stomach. He was here. He hadn't vanished. He had chosen to disappear from me. I didn't knock. I didn't go inside. I just stood there, staring at the place where the man who asked me to marry him was hiding. And for the first time, a thought cut through the panic with terrifying clarity. If he could erase me this easily, then the truth I was about to uncover wasn't going to be gentle, and I wasn't sure I was ready for it. I didn't confront him that night. I drove away before he could see me, before my fear turned into something irreversible. I went home and sat on the floor, still wearing the ring he had placed on my finger with shaking hands, the ring that now felt like proof of a lie I hadn't agreed to live in. The next morning, I finally received a message. One sentence. I'm sorry. I couldn't disappear any other way. No explanation, no location, no promise of return. I stared at the screen until the words lost their meaning. That was when it happened. Someone else reached out to me. Someone close, someone I trusted, someone who had hugged me after the proposal and said they were happy for us. They didn't ask how I was. They asked if I knew yet. My chest tightened. Knew what? They hesitated, then said something that shattered the last piece of denial I had left. He didn't vanish. He ran.
and he wasn't alone when he decided to do it. That was when I understood. His disappearance wasn't panic, it wasn't fear, it was planned. And someone near me had helped him vanish without leaving a trace. The man I loved didn't just leave, he was protected by someone who smiled at me while knowing exactly where he was. And that truth changed everything. If this story kept you watching, like the video, subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell, and don't miss the next videos and chapters, because the next story begins where trust is finally broken.